पहले हम लाइव चले गए, फिर हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। अच्छा सही है, आप स्क्रीन शेयर करेंगे ऑनलाइन टेस्ट वाली जो है। जल्दी ये चले मैम।
अभी तो साथ ये ओपन, वैसे मैंने लिंक शेयर किया था उसमें चैट में जो है।
सही चले मैम, फिर आप स्टार्ट करें, मैं जब तक ये ओपन कर लेता हूँ।
In the same way as you
अच्छा, ये ना राइटिंग के लिए टास्क 2 के लिए ना एक अच्छी वीडियोस थी, जिसमें ना उसने डिटेल में राइटिंग टास्क 1 को ना आपने रिफ्रेश किस तरह से करने, और राइटिंग टास्क 2 जो है ना उसमें किस टाइप्स के और मतलब एसेस होते हैं और आप उनको किस तरह से रिफ्रेश कर सकते हैं। तो उसने ना बड़ी डिटेल में बताया था। तो पहले ना ये वीडियो जो है वो एक दफा देख लेते हैं, तो उसके बाद जो है फिर हम वो रीडिंग करेंगे। रीडिंग का भी ना मैंने ऑनलाइन जो है ये यहाँ पे कल देख लिया था, तो फिर मैंने इसको ओपन किया हुआ है, तो फिर यहाँ से हम लोग डेली जो है वो एक टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस कर लेंगे।
Hello and welcome to Fluently. Thanks for joining us again for our tour of Task 2 is 250 words. Now what you actually write, 25% of the mark. It's 1 hour. You have 2 tasks. Task 1 is 150 words and task 2 is 250 words. Now what you actually write in academic in general is different, but this basic information is exactly the same for both. Today, let's concentrate on academic writing. So, as I said, you've got 60 minutes with 2 tasks. So task 1, which you should spend about 20 minutes on, is describing a diagram of some kind. And we'll look at some examples of that in a moment. And task 2, which is about 40 minutes, is writing an essay. These are some examples of the type of diagrams you might be given in the exam. So you might have a line graph or a pie chart. You may be given a diagram that shows some kind of process, or a table, or a bar chart like here, or maybe a map, or some other kind of diagram, but it's always something visual that you need to explain and describe. So let's look at some example questions to give you a better idea of the kind of thing that you'll have to do. So here's an example, and this is how it will look in the exam. So it gives you the timing. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task, so that's a good reminder for you. Then you've got the question. The pie chart below shows the main reasons why agricultural land becomes less productive. The table shows how these causes affected 3 regions of the world during the 1990s. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. And then another reminder for you, write at least 150 words. So this is very important, you must do that, 150 words or more. And as you can see from the question, you've got to select some of the main features. So you don't need to necessarily explain every one of these statistics, because probably you don't have time in 20 minutes, but you need to pick out the most important ones and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's look more closely at the question. So here they are. And in the exam, you want to take a little time to look at the diagrams and just to understand what you're looking at. So read all of the parts of the table, look at the parts of the pie chart, look at the labels and the statistics, and just see what information this is giving you, because this is what you need to describe. So you need some time to think and to plan what you're going to write. after your thinking and planning time, of course, you need to start writing. So you begin with your introduction. And the easiest and best way to do that is to use the information given to you in the question. You can rephrase it, put it in your own words, and it's a good way to do the first part of your introduction. So in our example question, the pie chart below shows the main reasons why agricultural land becomes less productive. The table shows how these causes affected 3 regions of the world during the 1990s. So I can change the words and I can put something like, the diagrams illustrate the 3 main causes of farmland becoming degraded in 3 different continents in the late 20th century. You could also add, if you wanted to, that these 3 means of degradation are overgrazing, deforestation, and overcultivation, with other causes amounting to only 7%. So you could put something like that there as well if you wanted to, just to be clear. Then you need to do a general overview. Now this means that you are giving kind of the general pattern or the general trend of the statistics that you can see in the diagram. So in this case, we can see in the table that Europe has the highest percentage of total land degraded. And in Europe, it's deforestation and overcultivation that causes that. So we could use that in our introduction as well. In our example here, overall, it is clear that Europe suffered more from farmland degradation than the other regions. And the main causes there were deforestation and overcultivation. So that's your introduction. And the general overview is very important. It's part of the mark scheme. So if you don't do it, you will lose marks. Okay, so it's very important to put that general overview in place. Put it in the introduction. It's done, it's clear, you won't forget it, and you won't run out of time to do it. Then, after your introduction, you start to give more details. So this is where, in the question, you're talking about, or they're talking about, selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so you're looking at the table, kind of putting into words what you can see, describing it. So for example, you might say something like, so if we're looking at Oceania, you might say that in the table, we can see that, so Oceania has 11.3% overgrazing, which is much more than the other countries, but it has 0% for overcultivation. So you can make some kind of comparison there, and 1.7, so that's in the middle, quite low, but in the middle of these 3 for deforestation. So you could say something like, for example, Oceania suffered from overgrazing quite extensively, with 11.3% of land degraded by that activity. However, overcultivation is at 0%. So you're sort of making a little comparison and you're describing what you can see. So that's what you do for the statistics that you can see. You don't need to give your opinion. You don't need to say why. You don't need to try and explain it or anything like that. It's nothing about your personal opinion. You're just reporting the facts from the diagram or from the table, graph, whatever it is. Okay, a few things to remember. Task 1 is a formal piece of writing. So use formal language. That means no contractions. So instead of can't or don't or isn't, you write cannot, do not, is not. Always write everything out fully. In task 1, no personal language. Okay, so you don't need to write I or my or anything like that. Keep it formal, keep it neutral. And obviously no slang as well. Also, use the facts and numbers. Like I said before, you don't need to give your opinion or try to explain anything. You just describe, okay? And remember to use the information that you're given. Use the numbers, put them in your writing, and stick to the facts. Another important thing to remember is the language you use. So to impress the examiner and to make your description better, you want to use some comparative and descriptive language. So for example, when you're comparing statistics, rather than just saying this is more than that or this is less than that, you want to be more specific. So is it a big difference? Is it a small difference? If it's a big difference, you can use a phrase like much more than or significantly more than. There are other examples as well. These are just a couple. You could say for a small difference, a little more than or slightly more than. These are just more accurate and more precise, okay, rather than just saying more or less. So yeah, these are just a couple of examples. There are more, so you can research that yourself. When you're describing graphs or something changing over time, you can use words. For example, we've got go up. Now we can say go up, but we could also use the word rise, increase, jump, or peak. If something is the same, we can say remain stable, stagnate, plateau. Or if something goes down, we could use fall, decrease, drop. Again, these are just a few examples. There are more. But these words are so that you can use alternatives. So you don't always say increase and you repeat that word many times in your writing. You want to try and use lots of different words to really show off to the examiner what you can do. Now let's think about task 2, which is the essay. Now this is asking for your opinion. So task 1, you don't write your opinion, but in task 2, that's what it's all about. So they might ask you different types of questions. They might ask you to describe advantages and disadvantages of something. So we've got an example here. Many museums charge for admission while others are free. Do you think the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? So you would obviously then talk about both sides, and then your conclusion would be which one you think is the best way. It could ask for your opinion. Some people think that parents should teach children how to be good members of society. Others, however, believe that school is the place to learn this. Discuss both these views and give your opinion. Again, you're giving both sides of something and then your thoughts as well. You might be asked for solutions to problems. So in this third one, in some countries, the average weight of people is increasing and their levels of health and fitness are decreasing. What do you think are the causes of these problems and what measures could be taken to solve them? So you would then describe what you believe the causes to be and possible solutions. They might ask you more specific direct questions. So in this example, as most people spend a major part of their adult life at work, job satisfaction is an important element of individual well-being. What factors contribute to job satisfaction? How realistic is the expectation of job satisfaction for all workers? So you need to answer those questions directly in your writing. Or there may be more of a discussion type question. Universities should accept equal numbers of male and female students. To what extent do you agree or disagree? And then you obviously give your point of view there. So in the essay, you need to follow the essay structure of starting with an introduction, giving different points of view or advantages and disadvantages, whatever the question asks for in the main body. And then you finish with your conclusion, which is usually bringing everything you've said together and summarizing it neatly at the end. Right, let's have a look in more detail at one of these task 2 questions. So this is how it will look in the exam. Again, they give you the timing to help you. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Okay, write about the following topic. Countries are becoming more and more similar because people are able to buy the same products anywhere in the world. Do you think this is a positive or negative development? So that's your main question. And then they'll always give you these instructions, and this is important. Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words, very important that, 250 words minimum. Okay, so let's look more closely at how we could begin to answer this. In the same way as you did with task 1, you can use the question to help you with your introduction in task 2 as well. So again, we're thinking about rephrasing the question, showing the examiner that you can put it in different words, in alternative phrases. So the question, countries are becoming more and more similar because people are able to buy the same products anywhere in the world. So one way to rephrase this, it's not the only way, there are many other ways of doing it. This is just an example. It is said that countries are becoming similar to each other because of the global spread of the same products, which are now available for purchase almost anywhere. So that's the beginning of our introduction. Now, you may choose at this point to put your opinion in the introduction as well. It depends on the question and depends on how strongly you feel, I suppose. But the person answering this one has chosen or feels that it's a negative development. Okay, so they have chosen to put in the introduction, I strongly believe that this modern development is largely detrimental to culture and traditions worldwide. So obviously detrimental is a synonym for negative. So that's an introduction. And one example, as I said, there are many other ways of doing it. Now let's think about how you would structure the remainder of your answer. So here's the structure of your essay. You start with a paragraph as an introduction, which we mentioned, rephrasing the question, and maybe give an overview of your opinion. It depends on the question as to whether that's appropriate or not. Then you move on to the main body of your essay. So in each paragraph, you should follow this system, which will give you a nice, clear, logical structure. You start with giving your idea. Now, depending on the question, this could be your opinion. It could be a reason why something happened, whatever it is. You give your idea first, then you explain it. Okay, you give more details, more information to make it clear. Then you give an example. You talk about maybe your personal experience or your knowledge of the subject, but whatever it is, that's fine. You need to give an example to support your idea. So your first sentence gives your idea. Your next couple of sentences explain it with more detail, and then you give an example to support it. This is the structure of the paragraph. And maybe you need to do, or you will need to do a second paragraph and possibly a third, depending on the question and so on. But that's what you do in each paragraph. Then at the end, your final paragraph is your conclusion. This is where you summarize the content and give your final opinion. Don't introduce anything new to the conclusion. It's just a summary of what you've already explained. Now, obviously, here I've cut this into different sections. You don't need to put these headings, okay? Your piece of writing will just be one piece of writing with no headings like this. Okay, great. Now let's think briefly about the marking criteria. What is the examiner looking for? So, like with the speaking, there are basically four areas that the examiner will look at. So let's have a look at them one by one. First one, task achievement. This basically means, did you answer the question? So make sure that you're always covering every part of the question. You've always included everything that you need to. And all the information should be relevant. Don't start talking about some other topic or changing subject. And this is where your word count becomes important. So you must have more than 150 words for task 1 and more than 250 words for task 2. So this is your task achievement. They will also look at your grammar, obviously, and your vocabulary. So with your grammar, they look at your range and accuracy. So you want a range of grammar, which means some simple sentences, some complex sentences. And so, for example, you're not always using past simple. Maybe use some past perfect, or you might use some passives or conditional if sentences, for example, as well as your ordinary simple sentences. And they'll look at your errors and mistakes. So be careful that you're not making too many, obviously, and give yourself time at the end to go back and check so you can reread everything and pick up some of the mistakes you missed the first time as you were writing. Then they'll look at your vocabulary or lexical resource, as they call it. Again, we're talking about a range or variety of words, okay, appropriate to the topic. So you're looking at less common words and maybe expressions. And the final one is C&C, as I put here, or coherence and cohesion. Now, that basically just means they're looking at the structure of your writing. Is it clear? Is it logical? Does it make sense? And to help you with that, you'll need to use connecting words. So these are your words like however or in addition, words like that that can connect your ideas and connect your sentences. So that was our quick run through of academic writing.
तो यहाँ पे किसी का कोई सवाल है, समझ में आई है? राइटिंग टास्क 2 और 1 को उसने डिटेल में बताया कि आपने किस तरह से चीजें रिट्रेस करनी है और उसको किस तरह से राइट करना है.
जी मैम, समझ तो आए.
फिर भी कोई क्वेश्चन है तो पूछ लें अगर कोई बात समझ में नहीं आई तो. अच्छा, उस दिन हम लोगों ने सॉरी उसका लिसनिंग का अपना पार्ट 1 किया था, तो आज उसके पार्ट 2 के जो क्वेश्चन बच गए हैं ना, तो फिर हम उसकी लिसनिंग करेंगे पार्ट 2 की।
सही हो गया।
Part 2. You will hear a woman giving a presentation about a holiday on an island in Britain that her company organizes. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning. My name's Erica Matthews, and I'm the owner of Matthews Island Holidays, a company set up by my parents. Thank you for coming to this presentation, in which I hope to interest you in what we have to offer. We're a small family-run company, and we believe in the importance of the personal touch. So we don't aim to compete with other companies on the number of customers. What we do is build on our many years' experience, more than almost any other rail holiday company, to ensure we provide perfect holidays in a small number of destinations, which we've got to know extremely well. I'll start with our 6-day Isle of Man holiday. This is a fascinating island in the Irish Sea, with Wales to the south, England to the east, Scotland to the north, and Northern Ireland to the west. Our holiday starts in Heysham, where your tour manager will meet you. Then you'll travel by ferry to the Isle of Man. Some people prefer to fly from Luton instead, and another popular option is to go by train to Liverpool and take a ferry from there. You have 5 nights in the hotel, and the price covers 5 breakfasts and dinners, and lunch on the 3 days when there are organized trips. Day 4 is free, and most people have lunch in a cafe or restaurant in Douglas. The price of the holiday includes the ferry to the Isle of Man, all travel on the island, the hotel, and the meals I've mentioned. Incidentally, we try to make booking our holidays as simple and fair as possible. So, unlike with many companies, the price is the same whether you book 6 months in advance or at the last minute, and there's no supplement for single rooms in hotels. If you make a booking, then need to change the start date, for example, because of illness, you're welcome to change to an alternative date or a different tour for a small administrative fee.
Before you
अब इसके आंसर्स बताएं। फर्स्ट वाले का कौन सा था?
अच्छा मैम, आप बेशक करेक्ट ना बताइएगा, तो हम दोबारा सुन लेंगे ताकि मे बी उससे हमें पता लगे कि गलत है कि नहीं।
ठीक है, ठीक है,
तो
सही।
पहले वाले का मुझे ए लगा,
ठीक है।
दूसरे वाले का बी है,
ठीक है।
13 का जो है ए है, और 14 का जो है सी।
सही। तो फिर इसको एक दफा दोबारा सुन ले।
ये ठीक है कि नहीं? आप पहले ये बताएं ना कौन सा गलत है, बता के उसको मैं
आपने कहा था कि आपने सही गलत नहीं बताना, हम इसको दोबारा सुन
नहीं,
ले।
गलत बता दें कि गलत ये है, मैं बता के अब
नहीं,
बाकी
गलत
पॉइंट्स
नहीं है, गलत नहीं है, चारों ठीक है।
सही। ऐसे ही है कि मुझे जो स्पेशली जो है ना फर्स्ट वाले में काफी कंफ्यूजन नहीं थी कि वो किधर किधर घूमे जा रहा है और आंसर ही नहीं मिल रहा।
हाँ जी, ऐसे ही। चले फिर भी एक दफा ना
बाकी
दोबारा
भी
सुन।
बता दें जो है हमारे साथ से, या बेशक चैट में कर
नहीं, आपके चारों ठीक थे, आंसर्स चारों ठीक है आपके। ये तो उसने क्लियर बोल दिया था ना, ये वाला
नहीं
नेम
नहीं,
उसने
मैं बाकी
बोला था।
पार्टिसिपेंट्स का कह रहा था। नहीं नहीं, मैं बाकी
हाँ जी, वो
पार्टिसिपेंट्स
भी
का कह
बता
रहा
दें। वैसे इस एमसीक्यूज वाले पार्ट में ना बहुत ज्यादा कंफ्यूजन होती है आंसर्स की, क्योंकि वो ना सारी चीजों के नेम्स एक दफा लाजमी बोलता है, जिस चीज से भी रिलेट करके उसको बोले, पर एक्यूरेट उसमें सिर्फ एक ही होता है, जो जो लिखा होता है ना उससे रिलेट करती है जो चीज।
सही। Yes.
Part 2. You will hear a woman giving a presentation about a holiday on an island in Britain that her company organizes. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning. My name's Erica Matthews, and I'm the owner of Matthews Island Holidays, a company set up by my parents. Thank you for coming to this presentation, in which I hope to interest you in what we have to offer. We're a small family-run company, and we believe in the importance of the personal touch. So we don't aim to compete with other companies on the number of customers. What we do is build on our many years' experience, more than almost any other rail holiday company, to ensure we provide perfect holidays in a small number of destinations, which we've got to know extremely well. I'll start with our 6-day Isle of Man holiday. This is a fascinating island in the Irish Sea, with Wales to the south, England to the east, Scotland to the north, and Northern Ireland to the west. Our holiday starts in Heysham, where your tour manager will meet you. Then you'll travel by ferry to the Isle of Man. Some people prefer to fly from Luton instead, and another popular option is to go by train to Liverpool and take a ferry from there. You have 5 nights in the hotel, and the price covers 5 breakfasts and dinners and lunch on the 3 days when there are organized trips. Day 4 is free, and most people have lunch in a cafe or restaurant in Douglas. The price of the holiday includes the ferry to the Isle of Man, all travel on the island, the hotel, and the meals I've mentioned. Incidentally, we try to make booking our holidays as simple and fair as possible. So, unlike with many companies, the price is the same whether you book 6 months in advance or at the last minute, and there's no supplement for single rooms in hotels. If you make a booking, then need to change the start date, for example, because of illness, you're welcome to change to an alternative date or a different tour for a small administrative fee.
Before you hear the rest,
अच्छा, कोई और अब इसके आंसर करना चाहे तो, सेकंड टाइम भी आप लोगों ने सुन लिया, अगर कोई और इस पे डिस्कशन करना चाहे या आंसर देना चाहे तो।
जी मैम, 11 का ए है और 12 का बी, 13 का सी और 14 का मेरे ख्याल से सी है अभी, अगर गलत नहीं हो तो।
नहीं, फर्स्ट का भी ठीक है, सेकंड का भी ठीक है, 14 का भी आपने ठीक बताया, लेकिन 13 का आपने गलत बताया। 13 का आपने सी बताया ना?
हाँ 5 उसने बताया ना, 5 डेज।
हाँ 5 डेज, लेकिन यहाँ पे ना लंच लिखा हुआ है, ये कीवर्ड्स लिखा हुआ है। उसने डिनर की बात की, जो बाकी चीजों की बात की ना, उसने वो कहा 4 और 5, लेकिन उसने जब लंच की बात की तो उसने उसके साथ 3 ऐड किया था।
हाँ ठीक है, ओके ओके, थैंक यू मैम।
of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Okay, so what does the holiday consist of? Well, on day one, you'll arrive in time for a short introduction by your tour manager, followed by dinner in the hotel. The dining room looks out at the river, close to where it flows into the harbour, and there's usually plenty of activity going on. On day two, you'll take the coach to the small town of Peel, on the way calling in at the Tynwald exhibition. The Isle of Man isn't part of the United Kingdom, and it has its own parliament called Tynwald. It's claimed that this is the world's oldest parliament that's still functioning, and that it dates back to 979. However, the earliest surviving reference to it is from 1422, so perhaps it isn't quite as old as it claims. Day three, we have a trip to the mountain Snaefell. This begins with a leisurely ride along the promenade in Douglas in a horse-drawn tram. Then you board an electric train which takes you to the fishing village of Laxey. From there, it's an 8-kilometre ride in the Snaefell Mountain Railway to the top. Lunch will be in the cafe, giving you spectacular views of the island. Day 4 is free for you to explore using the pass which we'll give you. So you won't have to pay for travel on local transport or for entrance to the island's heritage sites. Or you might just want to take it easy in Douglas and perhaps do a little light shopping. The last full day, day 5, is for some people the highlight of the holiday, with a ride on the steam railway from Douglas to Port Erin. After some time to explore, a coach will take you to the headland that overlooks the Cath of Man, a small island just off the coast. From there, you continue to Castletown, which used to be the capital of the Isle of Man and its medieval castle. And on day 6, it's back to the ferry or the airport if you flew to the island, and time to go home. Now, I'd like to tell you a bit more.
हाँ जी, अब इसके आंसर बताएं।
मुझे तो बड़ी मुश्किल से एक का आंसर मिला है, बाकी तो मिले भी नहीं है। ये बहुत ही उड़ती हुई गई है, समझ ही नहीं
अच्छा,
लगी।
नहीं, जो एक का मिला है वही बता दे।
I think so 16 का जो है ना, founded in functioning था आंसर।
नहीं, उसने डेट बताई है ना, फाउंडेड इन, जो उसका पास्ट वाली थी ना, जब फाउंडेड हुआ था।
समझ लगी, मुझे नहीं डेट
अच्छा
समझ लगी।
अच्छा, चले किसी
ये कह
और
रहा हूँ,
को
मुझसे
कोई
सारे के सारे उड़ के गए हैं मेरे से तो कल से।
ऐसे ही होता है। अच्छा, चले कोई और बताना चाहे जिसको कोई आंसर मिला हो। चले एक दफा इसको ना दोबारा सुन लेते हैं। अच्छा, फिर मैं वैसे आप लोगों को बता देती हूँ, उसने ना जहाँ पे
सेंटर से
बात
प्ले
की है
कीजिएगा वैसे।
हाँ
चले
जी,
दोबारा एक दफा प्ले कर लें, फिर आंसर बताइएगा जरा।
नहीं, आंसर मैं बाद में बताऊंगी। मैं ये बता रही हूँ कि आप ना, आप जब सुने ना, आप ये कीजिएगा कि आप जो डे 1, डे 2, डे 3 में जाती है
जी
आपको
जी,
लोकेशन तो
वो मैंने
पता है,
उसका ये
लेकिन
ये था कि मैंने भी ये अराइव और ये इन चीजों से ना उसको मैं ये करने की कोशिश कर रहा था, लेकिन वो बातें इधर उधर घुमा रहे थे, तो उसमें नहीं कैसे हो सका कि बात क्या हुई है
हाँ जी, तो वो जो लास्ट वाली बात है ना, लास्ट सेंटेंस वाली पे, वो ना पहले कर जाती है और पहले वाली बात ना वो एंड पे कर जाती है, जिस वजह से हम ये ढूंढ रहे होते हैं कि इस वर्ड के बाद ये वर्ड आएगा तो हम मेंशन कर देंगे, पर वो बातें ना मतलब एक ही सीक्वेंस में नहीं कर रही।
सही हो गया।
That is the end of part 2.
Our option is to go by train to Liverpool, and
Part 2.
सेंटर से प्ले कर दें, आई थिंक सो।
You will
price is the same whether you book sick free and most people.
ये आगे थोड़ा सा जी। सही।
now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Okay, so what does the holiday consist of? Well, on day 1, you'll arrive in time for a short introduction by your tour manager, followed by dinner in the hotel. The dining room looks out at the river, close to where it flows into the harbour, and there's usually plenty of activity going on. On day 2, you'll take the coach to the small town of Peel, on the way calling in at the Tynwald exhibition. The Isle of Man isn't part of the United Kingdom, and it has its own parliament called Tynwald. It's claimed that this is the world's oldest parliament that's still functioning, and that it dates back to 979. However, the earliest surviving reference to it is from 1422, so perhaps it isn't quite as old as it claims. Day 3, we have a trip to the mountain Snaefell. This begins with a leisurely ride along the promenade in Douglas in a horse-drawn tram. Then you board an electric train which takes you to the fishing village of Laxey. From there, it's an 8-kilometre ride in the Snaefell Mountain Railway to the top. Lunch will be in a cafe, giving you spectacular views of the island. Day 4 is free for you to explore, using the pass which we'll give you. So you won't have to pay for travel on local transport or for entrance to the island's heritage sites. Or you might just want to take it easy in Douglas and perhaps do a little light shopping. The last full day, day 5, is for some people the highlight of the holiday, with a ride on the steam railway from Douglas to Port Erin. After some time to explore, a coach will take you to the headland that overlooks the Calf of Man, a small island just off the coast. From there, you continue to Castletown, which used to be the capital of the Isle of Man and its medieval castle. And on day 6, it's back to the ferry or the airport if you flew to the island, and time to go home.
हाँ जी, आप बताएं किसी को कोई आंसर मिला हो।
फर्स्ट वाले का मुझे लगा रिवर,
ठीक है। सेकंड
1422,
ठीक है।
उसके बाद माउंटेन ऑफ स्नीफॉल मुझे लगा है।
नहीं, वो उसकी ना
Pebble Town।
टॉप माउंटेन की भी बात करते हैं, फिर साथ में टॉप
टॉप
की
की
भी
बात, टॉप
हाँ
व्यू
जी,
की
तो
बात जो
यहाँ पे
करी थी,
टॉप
एक
है।
मुझे उस पे कंफ्यूजन था। टॉप
हाँ
व्यू आ
जी,
रहा है?
हाँ जी टॉप है, नहीं सिर्फ टॉप,
अच्छा,
वन वर्ड भी है।
अच्छा ठीक
और
है।
इससे आगे
उसके बाद है अगर ट्रेन, मुझे एग्जैक्ट ये ट्रेन के एग्जैक्ट नेम नहीं पता लगा कि कौन से थे, लेकिन ट्रेन की
एक
बात
टीम
थी।
की बात कर रहे हैं आप?
जी 18 में।
नहीं, ट्रेन नहीं है।
अच्छा ट्रेन नहीं, कुछ और है, लेकिन
हाँ जी,
किसी की गाड़ी की बात जरूर हुई थी। अच्छा
नहीं उसने फ्री
उसके,
पासेस की बात की थी फॉर लोकल ट्रांसपोर्ट,
अच्छा
मतलब
ठीक
आपको फ्री
ठीक,
पासेस मिलेंगे, तो यहाँ पे पासेस है, मतलब पास लिखना है आपने PASS।
जी
और
सही हो गया।
18
उसके
19 का
बाद हो गया टेक द स्टीम रेलवे ट्रेन, स्टीम
हाँ सही है,
STEAM, स्टीम दूसरी
ठीक
वाली जो
है,
दूसरी होती है, दो वाली कह लें।
ठीक है।
और
और
आखिरी
लास्ट
वाले में जो है ना, आखिरी वाले का फिर मुझे नहीं पता लगा कि ये क्या है, लेकिन ये फ्री टाइम देन कोच टू कैसल जो है ना, ये नहीं मुझे पता लगा कि ये क्या था।
इसका वैसे कैपिटल है,
बिल्ड,
मतलब फार्मर के बारे में वो कहती
अच्छा
है कि
कैपिटल की,
कैपिटल।
अच्छा जो
हाँ
कैपिटल की
जी,
बात हुई थी, मैं कैपिटल और
हाँ जी,
बिल्डिंग में कंफ्यूज था थोड़ा सा। सही।
हाँ तो इसका जो है वो कैपिटल। अच्छा, किसी और को कोई आंसर को इसने बताना हो तो
मेरे ख्याल से 4-1 मिनट ही हैं हमारे पास, ज्यादा
हाँ
नहीं है।
जी। अच्छा, फिर किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन है तो वो पूछना हो, जो फर्स्ट सेशन हमने किया उससे रिलेटेड, मतलब राइटिंग टास्क 1 और राइटिंग टास्क 2 से रिलेटेड। वो वैसे तो इंग्लिश में ही थी सारी, तो समझ आई कि नहीं?
अच्छा एक चीज थी उसमें अंदर, मैं पहले भूल रहा था कि भाई जिस तरह वो बात कर रही थी कि आपने जो है ना कि कोई उसने क्वेश्चन दिया, तो पहले आपने उसको रिफ्रेश करके लिख देना कि आपकी क्या राय है। ये मेरा था कि ये हम शुरू में लिखें या एंड में लिखें, इसका क्या, ये दोनों में से क्या प्रेफर किया जाता है?
उसने जो रिफ्रेश करने की बात की थी ना, वो दोनों में उसने इंट्रोडक्शन ही रिफ्रेश करके लिखा हुआ है।
हम जो रिजल्ट अपना देना चाह रहे हैं कि यस पॉजिटिव है या हमारा नेगेटिव है,
वो फर्स्ट में
वो
देना है,
हम
आप फर्स्ट में देना है, फिर आपने उसको एक्सप्लेन करना है और एंड एट द एंड कंक्लूड करना है। जो फर्स्ट वाला टास्क था ना, उसके अंदर वो ये कहती है कि इसको रिफ्रेश करके ना आपने ओवरऑल लिख देना है कि ओवरऑल मतलब वो जो चीज पीक पे जा रही है और जो चीज बहुत लो है, तो उसका एक सेंटेंस लिख देना है कि ओवरऑल इस पिक्चर्स में आपको क्या नजर आ रहा है ट्रेंड।
सही हो गया, ठीक हो
और
गया।
जो सेकंड वाला है वो आपने रिफ्रेश करके ना, तो जहाँ पे एग्री डिसएग्री लिखा हुआ है या आपका ओपिनियन लिखा हुआ है, तो आपने इंट्रोडक्शन के ही लास्ट सेंटेंस में ये लिखना है कि आपका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इस चीज से रिलेटेड क्या है, मतलब जिस चीज से रिलेटेड भी वो ऐसे हो, तो आपने उससे रिलेटेड अपनी बात लिख के फिर उसके बाद बॉडी पार्ट 1 और बॉडी पार्ट 2 स्टार्ट करना। अच्छा, इसको कहते हैं एक तो रिफ्रेश लाइन और इंट्रोडक्शन की लाइन, और साथ में आपने देना होता है टाइटल थीम थीसिस देना होता है, मतलब एक थीसिस लिखना होता है आपने, उसमें से जो उसने आपसे पॉइंट पूछे आप उनका आंसर कर रहे हो, तो आपने उसकी थीसिस स्टेटमेंट लिखनी होती है कि आपका इस चीज से रिलेटेड पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ये है, और आप फर्दर जो है इसको मजीद मतलब इसके एडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज और क्या आप इसको फर्दर जो है उसको एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, बॉडी पार्ट 1 में क्या बताएंगे और बॉडी पार्ट 2 में।
ठीक हो।
अच्छा, किसी और का कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो पूछना है, नहीं तो फिर एंड करते हैं। अच्छा, अब मैं ना वैसे ये शीट्स का और इसका बता देती हूँ, सर ने वैसे कल लिंक जो है वो सेंड कर दिया था, लेकिन फिर भी ये है कि मैं दोबारा बता देती हूँ। वहां से ना आप अगर टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस करें ना, तो आपको इजीली सारी चीजें मिल जाएंगी और आप ना उसकी टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हो। मैं आपको भी दिखा देती हूँ। ये एक था इनका आईओटी जो सर ने बताया था, कल मैम ने बताया था, यहाँ पे ये आईओटी वाला, ये यहाँ पे ना सारे टेस्ट हैं, तो आप आईओटी की वेबसाइट पे जाके ना इसमें अपना ईमेल्स देंगे, लॉगिन करेंगे, तो आपको ये टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस मिल जाएंगे। आप खुद भी ना बैठ के टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस जो है वो इजीली कर सकते हैं। और सेकंड चीज ये है कि आपने एक्सेल पे जाके ना एक शीट तैयार करनी है, तो उसके अंदर ना आप वहाँ पे डेट लिख सकते हैं, अपना नाम लिख सकते हैं और डे 1 लिख सकते हैं, कि जैसे ही आप टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस करें ना, तो आप ना उससे रिलेटेड चीजें मतलब आपके जितने स्कोर्स आ रहे हैं, तो आप यहाँ पे ना उसको लिखते जाएंगे, मेंशन करते जाएंगे, और यहाँ पे आप फर्दर जो है वो साथ में और शीट्स वगैरह बनाते जाएंगे, सेकंड शीट फर्स्ट शीट। तो जिस चीज में आपके जितने आएंगे स्कोर्स बन रहे होंगे, तो आप डेट के समेत, अगर आपने टेस्ट के रिजल्ट की साइटेशन भी यहाँ पे देना चाहते हो, तो आप ना उसकी साइटेशन भी यहाँ पे दे सकते हो, और आप टेस्ट अटेम्प्ट करते जाओ। मतलब पहले तो जो भी सीन होगा तो आपको इम्प्रूवमेंट के साथ साथ पता चलता जाएगा, जब आपकी टोटल इम्प्रूवमेंट हो जाए, आप सेटिस्फाइड हो जाओ, फिर आप जाके टेस्ट दे सकते हैं। तो ये जो ना सबसे इजी है। एक तो होती है ना आप बुक से करते हो, सेकंड चीज ये है कि जिन्होंने ऑनलाइन करना है या जिन्होंने ऑनलाइन नहीं भी देना, तो यहाँ पे ना आप टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे ना गिवन टाइम होता है। आप कोई भी इसमें से टेस्ट प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू एग्जामिनेशन जैसे वो आपको टाइम देते हैं, तो यहाँ पे भी आपका वही टाइम मेंशन होगा, उसी टाइम में आपने टेस्ट कंप्लीट करके ना उसको सबमिट करना है, तो आपको उसी टाइम रिजल्ट मिल जाएगा कि आपके कितने करेक्ट हैं और कितने रॉन्ग है।
सही हो गया मैम। चलें फिर हम ऐड करते हैं सेशन को।
जी सर, ठीक है, ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज।